Yesterday, we talked about adding and subtracting fractions and mixed numbers with like denominators. Today, we're going to look at what it would be if the denominators were different or unlike. I'm going to start with 3/6 plus 1/3. I need to get these denominators the same. I need to find the LCM, or the least common multiple. LCM. Okay? The way that I do that is I have to list the multiples of each of these numbers. The multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12. I'm going to stop right there. The multiples of 6 are 6, 12. Well, I can stop there because I already see a multiple that both of these have in common. I'm going to leave this fraction alone. The denominator is already 6. To get this denominator to 6, I need to multiply by 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, to the denominator, I have to also do to the numerator. Now I have two fractions with the same denominator, and now I can add. 3/6 plus 1/3 is equal to 3/6 plus 2/6, which gives me 5/6. Notice the denominator stays the same. Let's try another one. 4/5 plus 7/8. I have to find the least common multiple for 5 and 8. Therefore, I need to start listing my multiples. So I'm going to count by 5s. And I'm going to count by 8s. Okay, and I'm looking at all those numbers, and the only number that those two have in common is 40. Therefore, 40 is my least common multiple. So I need to multiply this fraction times 8, and I need to multiply this fraction times 5. My new fraction would be 32/40 plus 35/40. Now I can add because my denominator is the same. When I add that, however, I get 68/40. We know that when it's 68/40, we have to change that to a mixed number. And so that was yesterday's lesson. So then you would change that into a mixed number. What happens when we add mixed numbers in? So let's say I have 3 3/7 plus 2 2/14. I notice that 7 can go into 14 and 14 can go into itself. So I'm going to leave my whole numbers, and I'm going to actually leave this fraction alone. How do I get 7 to be 14? Well, I have to multiply times 2. When I do the denominator, I have to also multiply times 2 on the numerator, and so I'm left with 6. Now I can add nice and neat, and I would get 5 and 8/14. Let's switch gears and move to subtraction for a few minutes. All right, first thing I have to do is I have to get that denominator to be the same. The first thing that I could do that comes into my mind is I know that 5 times 6 is 30 and 6 times 5 is 30. So I'm going to keep my whole numbers, but this time I'm going to have to change both sides. My whole numbers stay the same. Okay, now we are back to what we did yesterday. I noticed that my numerator is smaller, so I'm going to borrow. And my whole, I'm going to add over here. And when I do, I get 48. Now I can easily subtract. 5 wholes minus 2 wholes is 3. That denominator stays 30. And 48 minus 20 is 28. So my answer would be 3 and 28 over 30. Okay, so let's review real quick. You must find the least common multiple to get those denominators to be the same. When you do that, you can think about all the multiples for each of the numbers, and you want to find the smallest one that they both have in common. When you do that, you have to either multiply both fractions or just one of the fractions. Whatever you do to the denominator, you also have to do to the numerator. Once you get all those steps, you then think about what we did yesterday and either change an improper fraction to a mixed number or borrow.